Hello everyone, this is our week 4 go-to presentation, and this will really just be sort of a review and wrap up, and just wanted to go over some of the final assignments that are coming up this weekend for the course. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for your patience this month. It's been a very unusual month for me, and it seems like for some of you as well, but I really appreciate you all rolling with some of the schedule changes that have happened with the go-to sessions and some of the deadlines as well. We are getting back on track as far as grading goes. I have everything from the previous week is now graded. I'm going to start getting feedback to you on your week 3 go-to mood board, not go-to, your mood board projects starting tomorrow, so you'll have that going into the weekend, and then we'll do the final synthesis for the design that you've been planning in your mood board. Other than that, be sure to take a look at the professionalism assignment, as there is a reflection video included with that you'll want to submit. So this is what I'll be taking a look at starting tomorrow with your mood boards, and this is the last segment in terms of the planning involved in your design project. And do keep in mind that the mood board is strictly a planning tool, because in practice there will be a lot of advanced planning that goes into any kind of media creation project before you sit down and just start knocking out video or knocking out a web design or graphic design. You have to really put thought into the goals of that project and the visual style and the art direction that you want to go with. And that's what we've been doing. So this last little factor that we are deciding on is your typefaces. So what I'll be looking at is the character of the typefaces you've selected, how they suit the personality of your design idea and your personal brand, and also how compatible the two typefaces are together. And in some cases, you might have selected a third typeface, which would be like a display typeface, a very characteristic, stylized typeface, like you think of with Coca-Cola or Walt Disney. So something that's highly recognizable. Your typefaces, much like your colors, are something that you can take beyond this project. Right now we're just focusing on a single design, which is sort of a visual representation of your personal mission statement. So it could be a poster, it could be an advertisement design, or something else. But this can stick with you, and I've mentioned before that in the graphic design course down the road, you can revisit this, you can make use of these design ideas within your projects during that course. So you'll be doing things like creating a business card design and doing some personal logo design and things of that sort. So by drawing on what you've done here this month, you can already have a color scheme in mind and a set of typefaces in mind, even a visual style that represents you. Now, the colors that you've chosen, the typefaces that you've chosen, these are the things that represent your brand. Your design, your synthesis design, is not limited to only that set of colors you picked. If you're using a photograph, there's probably a whole plethora of colors involved. But we're talking about brand colors. So these are like the graphic elements you might add to a poster design or a advertisement design that are recognizably your brand. So with the Burger King brand, you have the gold, the blue, and the red that are the recognizable brand colors. There's a whole lot more going on in this picture of the hamburger, but the signage, the graphic elements, are the parts where those brand colors are represented. And it's something that they use consistently on their websites, on their packaging, in their advertisements, the signs, the design of the restaurants, and so on. So that's what we're talking about. You probably don't have your own personal brand of fast food, but that's irrelevant. This is something that's true of branding in a general sense. So now let's talk about this design draft that's coming up. This is the culmination of your mood board project that you've been working on throughout the month. It's also the culmination of your Photoshop practice activities and a chance for you to bring those two elements together. Starting with the mood board, you came up with a design idea, and that was what you described in your design overview. So this is the visual themes that you wanted to incorporate into your design, the kind of feeling or emotion or personality that you wanted to convey. And to help visualize that, you provided a set of images that represented some aspect of that design idea. These are visual themes. They might be textures, particular types of imagery like outdoors or urban or animals or what have you, whatever the case may be. Colors, typefaces, just like layout ideas, anything of that sort that helps you to visualize the direction that you're going in. Because if you're communicating this to a design team, if you have graphic artists working with you, or if you have if you have a client that you're reporting to or a project manager that you're reporting to, you need to get their buy-in, their acceptance, and their approval. You can communicate those ideas in advance, get their go-ahead, or else get their input saying, well, we need to adjust this a little bit, I don't really like this color scheme, whatever the case may be. That way you're not wasting time and money developing a piece of media that isn't going to suit the needs and the goals of the project. I talked about the color scheme. We wanted to pick a set of colors that match the personality of your brand, your identity as a media professional, and the mission that you describe in your mission statement. These are your brand colors again, so you want to think about color theory. How are these colors interacting with one another? Are they very calm and harmonious, like your analogous colors, or is there a more dynamic energy and contrast, like the complementary colors? Is it something other than that? Is it, and what is the significance of the colors that you chose? How do they relate back to your identity, your personality? And as we said earlier, the typefaces. These also help to communicate your visual story. If you have a very fun, very lighthearted looking typeface that you might see in a children's cartoon, that communicates a personality. If you have, say, a very gothic looking calligraphy typeface, that's a very different personality. Or if you just have the more traditional and conservative typefaces like an Arial or Times New Roman or something like that, then it's a little bit more reserved, a little bit more businesslike. All these factors work together to communicate your message. And that's what we're doing now. So you're bringing all of that together. And I'll be looking at this, looking for you to apply the stuff that you've done so far and in developing a single image. Think back at the movie posters that we examined, the book covers we examined, the advertisements from We Love Ad. All of these are a single still image that communicates a message, and that's what you want to do. The message in this case being your personal mission statement. How can you communicate that? With very limited words. You don't want to literally drop your personal mission statement on this image. You want to get that impression across. So what will I be looking for in this design? I'm looking for you to apply all the stuff that we covered in this week or this month's course. So that would be, I want to, visual story with a distinct protagonist and a story problem. Maybe you're the protagonist. Maybe your hypothetical client is the protagonist, or maybe it's somebody completely different. Um, but story conveys a lot of information, and it really tells your viewer a lot more about you than just sort of giving just the facts. It conveys emotion. It conveys deeper meaning. I want to see you apply your brand colors in some creative way. Again, your entire design doesn't have to be limited to those 2 or 3 colors you picked, but I want to see those colors represented in some way so that it's recognizable. It's identifiably you. If you have a logo design, or if you're just creating a decorative title, apply those typefaces. And we don't have a whole lot of body text in this case. It's not like extensive text copy. But think about how you can differentiate your text using your heading typeface, and your body typeface. So maybe your large title is done in your heading typeface, and then the subtitle or the tagline or slogan is written in the secondary or the body typeface, just to differentiate the two. Start creating a visual hierarchy. And that's the last piece, is visual hierarchy. I'll be looking for that. Be very purposeful in what you emphasize. Do you want me to notice what's in the image first? Do you want me to notice your title first or your name first? And then what should I notice after that? Where should my eye go from there? Make it a very orderly and organized and purposeful experience for the viewer. The other question I get is, what's required in terms of Photoshop? Because each Photoshop practice required you to use a certain technique or a set of techniques. I'm not requiring any specific Photoshop techniques for this. I want you to use whatever Photoshop techniques you need in order to achieve the goals. However, I do want you to use Photoshop, and I want to see some editing done. So you might creatively crop the image. I demonstrated some of that in our first Photoshop lab, where I cropped, I think, the gorilla image to focus it in more tightly on the gorilla, or place the gorilla in a position that's more conducive to telling a story, or creates a more balanced design. So cropping is something you can do quickly. It can be very effective in helping with your visual storytelling. You might use some of that compositing that we did with the ducks, the traveling ducks, where you take something from one image, put it in another. You could do collages that way. You can do, put a product or a person in a scene that was not originally there. Color enhancement and color manipulation. You guys did really well with that, so that's something you can do. Changing the color of the image to create a sense of a particular time period, like an antique, old-timey setting, or 1970s looking vintage photograph, or something along those lines. You can set a mood, diminishing the color to give it more of a depressed or lowered mood, making it really vibrant to make it more upbeat, or adjusting color of particular objects to draw attention to them. Changing something so that it's more of a complementary color to its background, so that it stands out. Something along those lines. What else? And we didn't do this in a practice activity, but it is covered in the Linda lesson, and that is removing unwanted elements. So instead of adding to your image, you're using things like the clone stamp tool, the spot healing tool, and some of these other tools to actually remove something from the image, erasing it and replacing it with a a texture that looks convincing, like you can't even tell it was there anymore. So that's something you can do if you want to take that on. If you're pretty proficient with Photoshop already, challenge yourself. Don't limit yourself to what we've done this month. Be creative and push your boundaries, however that may be. But be very design conscious, regardless. Whereas the practice activities were really open-ended, there was room for you to have fun and be creative. Now I still want you to have fun, and I definitely want you to be creative, but I want you to be very purposeful and create a very clean design and as effective a design as you can. Okay, I have some examples I'll show. These are just the image, not the entire mood board, but before I show these, I do want to give kind of a disclaimer, and that is I'm not looking for artistry. Fully aware that most everyone coming into my course has never touched Photoshop. A few have, but mostly it's for newcomers to the software. And so I set my expectations for this assignment based on that idea. Some of my students are pretty proficient with graphic design and with Photoshop, and it shows in their work. The examples I'm going to show are from varying degrees of Photoshop and design ability. These are some that I felt were highly successful from the standpoint of storytelling, from use of color, use of typefaces, and so forth. Some of them are highly proficient in artistic designs, so don't feel intimidated by anything that I show. These are inspirations, these are just examples of what we're going for, but do your best, and don't compare what you're doing to anyone else, because we're all at different points in terms of our skills, and you all have different interests, and graphic design may not be on the top of your list. And you might recognize some classmates, particularly some of the campus students. What I like about this one is the use of brand colors. This is what I was saying. There's more color in the cityscape as well as in her hair, her face, her skin tone, and so forth. But the brand colors are represented in these social media icons as well as this banner, this vertical banner on the side. You have that turquoise and white color. And she has reduced the color as well as the contrast in the background color, or background image, so it doesn't compete too much with what's in the foreground and creates that separation, that sense of depth. So this was more of a personal brand creation. Others used other subjects like organizations. This one is for on the topic of personal image and the influence that media has on that, particularly with young girls. So here you see the brand colors represented more extensively in the background with this rose and the soft pink, as well as the sort of blue-gray of the words of the typeface. Very creative use of text and typefaces. Be very conscious of how you arrange your text. Make sure that it's intuitive. For example, this should read, "Stop media influence. You are not what they say you are." But it could easily be read, "Stop, you are not what they say you are, media influence," which doesn't make as much sense. So be conscious of that, the natural intuitive reading habits of your viewers, and make it as easy for them to understand as you can. A very highly stylized design. He has really altered the color. And here you see, this is kind of a counterexample to what I've been saying. In this case, he used his colors throughout the entire image. Changed the crowd to this teal color, made these fireworks look very stylized, almost unrecognizable, and they are this kind of rose-colored, rose color. And there's little iconic images spread throughout that represent aspects of his interests: music, literature, video, more music. I'm not sure what the bear is doing there, but all things that are very highly personal and connected to the idea of memories and event planning. Another one that is more graphic design oriented, less photorealistic, but an interesting and very artistic design. You can see the brand colors applied, the blue and the black and white. Not strong storytelling, but very direct and straightforward brand representation. This is a very powerfully done photo composite of the side-by-side comparison. And I think the one comment I had here, it's really well done. One thing I would say is, since we, as English speakers, we typically interpret things from left to right, because that's how we read our writing. We usually interpret before and after being before on the left, after on the right. So I would say that this could be flipped, because the idea is women going from these unhealthy situations into a healthier life and improving their life. So you want to go from that to that. So something to keep in mind. But otherwise, this was pretty well done, especially the Photoshop work and the makeup work. Another very stylized and artistic piece. Interesting that the guys are really doing some of the more abstract and artistic pieces. But again, in this case, the entire image is done in the brand colors. Directly identifies your subject and has a tagline or slogan with some very symbolic imagery. All of these and perhaps a few more are available for viewing as examples within the assignment. So they're on a Google Drive link. Take a look at those. If you have any questions before we get to that final assignment, let me know. And hopefully I can answer them. If we need to, we can plan a one-on-one meeting time. I'm still planning to hold the week 4 Photoshop lab, which will be very open-ended in this case since we don't have a specific practice. So if you do need any help or any specific tips and clarification, see me there. Otherwise, I will be looking forward to seeing how these all turn out. And it's been great working with you guys, and wish you all the best as you move ahead, and hope you have a great spring break.